All right, we are live, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our live show discussion to talk about Nocturna by Maya Motain. Sorry, just before I start hearing myself talking as the live show starts. All right, yes, sorry. Welcome, everybody. This is our June book of the month, and we're going to be talking about Nocturna with you all. So, I'm Kaz from the channel Little Book Owl, from the Sydney portion of the book club. And Els, do you want to also introduce yourself?
I'm Els from my house.
In Sydney.
Well, actually not in Sydney, but Sydney adjacent.
Yes.
Sydney adjacent.
Yes. I'm Jean from Happy Indulgence and the Brisbane Book Club.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
For those of you joining us today, if you have any questions you want us to answer, then leave those in the chat on the the watch page. Sorry, my brain is not working today. It's taking a little time to figure out what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's the one. There's a little, yeah. Wow.
Anyway, we are here to discuss Nocturna today. So let us know how many of you guys read it. We will be talking about spoilers today because it is book club. And I personally have only read half of it. So I'm just keen to hear what you guys thought about it as well. Because, mum life.
Yes. The first part of this live show will be spoiler-free, so any of you who haven't finished it yet, we'll give you a bit of a warning before we dive into all the nitty-gritty details. But yeah, let's also go around again with our star ratings. And Jean, what it is so far, what the first half of the book is in terms of a rating.
Probably a 3 so far. It started as maybe a 4, but at the moment it's gone down to a 3.
I'm giving it what I'm calling a generous 2.5.
Ooh.
I'm around a 3.5. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How was the range of opinions at Brisbane, Jean? I know you said a lot of people didn't finish it.
Okay, so it got compared to A Darker Shade of Magic a lot. Yeah, and it was basically like, and I kind of feel the same as well. There was like a super strong start, and it was really interesting, and I liked like the banter between the characters. But now that it's the middle, it's kind of like tapered off, and I don't really know what I feel about it. But like, I enjoy the magic part, but that's pretty much all that's keeping it going at the moment. So yeah.
At the Brisbane meet, did you have people who rated it like 4 or 5?
No.
Oh, wow. What was the highest rating?
The highest was probably 3.5.
Okay, and what was the lowest?
The lowest was Sophia at 1.5. I was like, wow, that is harsh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there were quite a few DNFs actually. And it's, pretty much because they said, you felt like you had read this book before, other than having like the whole Spanish influences, which was what kept you going. But yeah, it's like it really drags in the middle, and that's when you're like, yeah, I've had enough. Yeah. What did you guys think about it?
Well, at the Sydney meet, the lowest was 1.7.
Interesting.
The highest was 4.5.
Wow.
We had a really wide range of opinions, which I absolutely loved, even though in the end it was mostly those of us with lower ratings who were the loudest.
It's always the way, though.
As usual.
Like, I found overall with the book, at the beginning, my rating was a lot higher, and it just sort of went down as we got through it. And I'll get into details once we go into spoilers. But for me, I found that there was one really big thing that annoyed me, and that ruined a lot of it. So I think it's well written. I think it is it's well constructed, but I wanted a lot more from it, and I didn't get that. I'm trying to think how to phrase this without spoiling things. Yeah, I wanted more from it.
Yeah.
I wanted a lot more from it.
My thoughts, like, because at the start, I was definitely like drawing upon the parallels with A Darker Shade of Magic, but I also like consciously separated it after a point. So, because I knew that if like there's other books that have been compared to other things, and I have to make sure I go in not thinking about that. Otherwise, it just completely ruins like my enjoyment of it. So I was trying to read it as it is on its own and try not to compare it to anything else. And I did enjoy it. I thought it was like a fun and easy read. I wasn't wowed by the book though. I definitely agree. I wanted a little bit more from it, but I didn't have any like major issues with things. Like there wasn't anything like really standing out that I disliked about it. It was just kind of like a fun read.
Sorry, I'm just like watching Els file her nails just casually.
I'll just do it under the table. I've been breaking them all week. Leave me alone.
No, that's cool. Good energy, bad bitch energy.
We've got tea for later.
We do.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I don't know, like I found the magic system.
Oh.
Get some water. I found the magic system to be really confusing because it's pretty much like the magic can be used to solve anything. And at first I thought, all right, so you've got Alfie. Is it Alfie? Yeah, Alfie who can like see colors in the magic, which was really cool actually.
I really liked that.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden he's like healing himself and making like problems go away. I'm like, what exactly is your power?
Oh, I think the healing himself thing is like the more general, like, because obviously there's a more general use of magic and some people excel in certain elements, but then I wasn't sure exactly the scope of what that was because they were also saying like general spells and stuff as well, which is what he was using for the healing, I think. And then his proprio was being able to, or however you pronounce it, is seeing like seeing magic physically in colors and being able to like manipulate it. So that's healing.
Okay, but then because he has his proprio is like fusing powers or something because he can. Oh my gosh, are you okay?
Yes, I gave myself so much attitude.
Oh my god.
Oh my
god. To take medication.
I don't think it was fusing powers. He's able to change the color of his magic so he can kind of mimic other people's powers.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so I just got to that part where it explained that, but I'm like, haven't you been using like all different powers? And then I don't really understand like the scope of the whole magic in the world. Like,
I agree. Like, I understand like certain people have proprios, not everyone does. And then there's also like the general magic, which is like elemental, but also other things as well, like healing, which I wasn't sure. Because at first I thought it was just kind of elemental magic, but then we were like talking about all like desk magic or things that like they learn, which I wasn't sure the scope of that part of it.
Yeah.
That did really annoy me was I struggled to differentiate the two because the way I understood it was you had the Castellan magic and you had the Anglacian magic, and for a very long time based on the desk magic thing, I made the assumption that Anglacian magic was book learned with like a procedure. Maybe it was incantations. Maybe it was like potions and ingredients, something more formal. Whereas the Castellan magic was the proprio, which was instinctual and something that everyone individually had. But
not everyone had proprio though. Only some people.
Not everyone had it. Yeah. I got confused by this. And then you have later things where they can access certain magic but not other magic. Something that happens with Finn. And it made less and less sense the more it went on. I really wanted to know what the difference is and how it works. Yeah,
I definitely think that needed a little more explanation. And just like more so explanation about the logic of it and the restraints, because at some point in terms of the proprio magic they did explain that everyone has limitations, but they didn't like explain general limitations for all of the magics, which is what made me confused a little bit about what magic was part of what.
Yeah, like the way if you have magic that only certain people can use, and then magic that everyone can use, but no, I'm phrasing this very badly. If you have a world where magic exists, where it is commonly accepted that magic exists, and where it is a regular part of day-to-day life, there's got to be some sort of restriction placed on it by a social or political body. So there was a little bit of a sense that Inglacian and desk magic was for upper classes because they were the ones who got to learn it. They had the opportunities. That's fine. But then Finn's magic made not very much sense.
No. Was that her proprio, being able to change her face?
Yes.
The other stuff, who knows?
Yeah.
If anyone knows, please.
One thing,
because she had a special affinity for earth and rocks, so that's part of like the elemental magics, which everyone's able to access, but some people excel in certain areas as others.
One thing that did come up in book club about this book is that everything felt really, really convenient. Like they could use this magic. They could use this magic just to make everything go away. And it's like when Finn first met Alfie and she has the cloak, and then I don't know, it's not spoilery yet, but then it's just like, oh yeah, I'll just go along with you. And why? Like yeah, and you know, when she sneaks into the castle, she bumps into him, and that's convenient as well. And yeah, like everything,
it gets more convenient.
Oh,
and that's why my rating went down.
Yes.
The other thing that someone pointed out yesterday was there were very little consequences to actions.
Like I was expecting a lot more into, this is going to get in spoiler territory. Sorry. But in terms of Alfie and, you know, the consequences of his actions, I was expecting more, especially from his parents and what's her name? Paloma.
Yes.
I was expecting to see more, especially since he amped it up so much in his head that he was going to get into so much trouble from what he did, and how it affected
his parents were very, very much non-entities. They sort of appeared.
And that's what came up as well, because is it Luca who's his brother as well?
I thought he was a cousin.
Yeah, he describes him as a brother, but I think they're like best friends. But
yeah, and then I just reached this part in the book where he's like, oh, I noticed the crown prince has disappeared again. Should I tell the king and the queen? Nah, he'll be fine. And it's like, dude, if your other brother goes missing, you would keep this guy under lock and key, especially because he's a crown prince. Yeah, but he just like snuck around doing whatever he wanted, and there was no consequences, he said.
Yeah.
He was caught that one time. He got yelled at briefly, and they moved on.
Exactly. And there really wasn't any resolution with his missing brother as well. Because I really wanted to know what happened.
Yeah. I definitely assumed that he would just reappear at the end.
So did I.
Just the convenience of it all, and considering how we went into this story going, he's coming home to find out, like, to find a way to rescue his brother. That was all of his motivation right at the beginning, and then at the end he was just like, well, okay, I guess he's dead.
Yeah.
Spoilers, sorry.
We should probably dive into, like, we're probably diving into spoiler territory here, so just a warning for those of you who have not read the book, if you don't mind finding out all the details.
Yep, there aren't heaps.
But yeah, I absolutely agree.
Expect his brother to come back. Just because out of convenience, they were going to miraculously discover that Giamara was not being controlled by someone anymore, and so she could open up the void and bring him back. Oh, look, there he is.
No.
No.
And you wonder if, like, he's going to come back in the next book or something like that.
Like, I appreciate that he didn't come back, because that's what I was expecting, but I agree, definitely. I feel like there wasn't enough resolution or kind of progression in terms of Alfie's perception of the whole thing, especially since, as you mentioned, at the start, that was his sole motivation.
Yeah.
His life was completely consumed by his lost brother, and he was determined to find him. And obviously something pops up along the way that's pretty major, that's his fault and he needs to fix it. But I feel like it just kind of, that completely distracted him, which didn't make as much sense, especially since like his brother was all consuming.
It distracted him, it didn't develop him. And we have to also remember, this story takes place over a matter of days.
That's
like
true.
It happens very quickly. And that is that's why the turnaround at the end where he's like, well, okay, he's dead, I'm going to be more responsible now. That is just a huge switch.
If it had been weeks, even months, like I get it, progressing, but yeah.
And like, give him time and show us how he's developing, how he's going, well, I have to step up and take responsibility. And maybe he transitions from, I have to take responsibility in his absence to I have to take responsibility in case he doesn't come back, to finally that acceptance. But it's a process that he does not go through. Yeah. It just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about this convenience, because I want to know.
So some highlights. And this is where I'm just going to like name things that happen in the book.
Yes.
They have a magic parchment so that Luca in the palace and Alfie in the prison can communicate. And oh no, Luca has spilled cocoa on the magic parchment and he's just found out some vital information. But it's okay, there's a corner that's still fine, and so he can still write it down.
And I was saying, we were chatting about this earlier, and I was saying to Els, like, the utter convenience of it all, but like it was so dramatic, and like it seemed like such a pivotal moment, or like such a I don't know, I can't think of the word, but like the fact that that piece of information didn't actually affect things, like if Alfie hadn't learnt that until later, it wouldn't have changed anything. So it seemed like it didn't, like
if he didn't learn it at all, it would until like the moment where the stone arms began moving, then it would have been like
exactly, because the fact like nothing actually happens in regards to that until they're already back at the palace, and it's Paloma and Luca who go to the vault, not Alfie. He's not involved in it at all, so he didn't need to know. Like it didn't affect him and his story and his actions at all.
So that's why your ratings dropped all the way down.
Oh, there's more. There's stuff like, okay, so there's the mob boss Cole who blocks Finn's proprio, so she can't change her own face, but she can change other people's faces. She can still do like her own thing.
I was a little, I didn't think that was as strong of an explanation in terms of like, they're like, oh, maybe Cole can only block magic that she knows about.
Yeah, it was weak. And like but I just had already established that magic was a very conscious thing, I could have accepted it.
But it just seemed like hers is like more of an instinctual thing. It feels like, I feel like the most logical way for her magic to work would be to completely block their magic, not just part of it.
Yeah.
Like it didn't really make sense to me. Even like knowing about it, I feel like she wouldn't be as powerful if she had to know about people's proprio magic in order to block it.
Oh, absolutely. And like that, the convenience of that means that there's no real stakes in Finn's loss of her magic, because she still has magic. She still gets to do all these things that help the story along. It's never actually inconvenient.
Especially since the only kind of instance where it would have been really important for her to change her face was when she's sneaking into the castle to steal the invisibility cloak, but then she has the cloak so she can hide herself, and then it's fine. And after that, it's not really an issue. Like her not being able to change her face is never really an issue again. So again, not very high stakes in the grand scheme of it.
Yeah, and like just things like when they go in, they have to get Jomara out of the prison, and they get there and
rating's going down as we talk more.
Yeah.
Like more and more and more.
Like, so they go to find Jomara at the prison, and they're like, well, you have to convince her because she's evil and she killed the crown prince. And then it turns out that she wasn't evil, she was being controlled.
Oh dear.
And she does want to help them, but her tongue's been cut out, so she can't do certain magic, but she can still do the magic that they need from her.
Oh gosh.
And then, like, in regards to that as well, I understand that in the prison they like carve marks into her skin so that she can't use her magic. Is it explained that those marks are removed? Because I feel like that was glossed over, and it was like, how did she use the magic then?
I'm pretty sure Alfie makes a comment about how it's going to take some time to remove them.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know when they sit down and do this, because
I don't think they do.
There's like all the hubbub in the prison. They think she's gone, they have a brief moment of panic. On the next page, she reappears.
And I feel like the only time that it would have been able to happen is in the carriage with Alfie and Xiomara in the back of the carriage, when they have that moment where Alfie realizes that she was being manipulated and controlled into doing it. But then there's kind of like, they skip nothing else is explained in the carriage, and then we flick to like 10 minutes later or something when Alfie starts speaking to Finn, and then he's got the dragon back, but nothing else is explained. So I'm like,
no.
Yeah.
Convenient.
I'm really tired of the word, but it's the only word that really encapsulates how I feel about this book.
I was actually really shocked when I stumbled upon, that really violent scene around page 200. First, there was a torture scene that was just like really like, whoa, like where did that come from? And then the person on the ceiling, like all supernatural style. Do you guys get me?
I do know what you mean, and I'm very unhappy that I know what you mean when you say.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. Wait, where? Sorry, do you know exactly
who's being tortured and by whom?
Yeah, I can't.
Finn. Wait, who's Finn? Which one's the guy? Alfie.
Alfie.
Okay. He was being tortured by Ignacio, I think. Yeah, and then
wasn't that outside? What happened on the ceiling? They were outside in the marketplace.
Yeah, they stumbled upon this body on the ceiling with knives, and they were like,
in the pub.
In the pub. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I went in thinking this was going to be your usual, PG style YA, and then I got to that bit and I'm like, oh. So because I'm the type of person who's really like disturbed by, scenes like that, especially when there's no warning. And then it progresses to that torture scene with Ignacio and Alfie, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just didn't expect it.
That was something that was definitely brought up. The tone and of the book is that sort of PGYA that you were talking about.
Yeah,
the content is a lot more graphic. It is a lot older.
Yes, yeah,
and it's a lot more typical of adult fantasy. And the thing is, if this book had been twice the length, aimed at adults, and had a lot more world building in it, I probably would have read it a lot more.
Exactly. And one thing that I found really interesting was the whole the Spanish influences in the book. But if there was more, more on the magic, more on the Spanish influences and all of that, I would have.
That's an aspect of the world building I also want more of, and it's one of those things where if that's something that we're going to find out in later books, that's fine, but we still don't have enough here. They could have put like a timeline at the front. I want to know how many years it's been since they overthrew the Inglacian occupation. I want to know how long that occupation went on for and to what extent it's impacted the culture and the language. We already know it's impacted the magic quite significantly. And the language thing as well. The Spanish words, it's the same Spanish words repeated throughout the whole book, and they're distinguished from the other ones. I want to know to what extent the languages are each used, and I could find that out if I knew how long the occupation was, or how long it's been since the occupation. Because when it comes to language and colonization and historically, we know that some languages outlast others. The English language, when Britain, before it was united, I can't remember the exact year, but Britain was invaded by William the Conqueror. They brought their own language, and the English language stayed. And that's part of the reason why the English language as we have it is so mixed up in words from other cultures. We have very little structure compared to other languages, and we have a lot of phrases that are drawn from Latin, from Spanish, from French, from all over the world. So I want to know what sort of effect has happened in this world. I want to know if the Castellan language is becoming prevalent again, and that's why those words are scattered throughout, or I want to know if they've been speaking Castellan the whole time. I want to know if, like this so-called desk magic, the Inglacian magic is only upper class, and so the Inglacian language is only upper class. What's the difference there?
Yeah.
We don't see any of that.
Yeah, because I feel like we didn't see very much of the cultural impact, like on a whole as well, outside of the language. Because there's one instance where, who is he? Who's speaking to who? Someone's speaking to someone, and they mentioned they had heeled boots because the Anglo-Saxon people were taller, so it was like they were trying to like from what, like during the occupation, the Castellan people started wearing like small heeled boots, and that's continued as like a style since then. But that's like the only thing I really saw in in the cultural impact of the colonization.
Yeah, there's clearly been some thought put into it, but it's just
there's so much room to like expand that and really take it to a bigger level, especially since it could have affected so much, like the language and the magic, which was such a big part of the book.
I mean, I understand that very big part. This book, despite the fact that it's a Latinx fantasy, it is targeted at English-speaking audiences.
Yes.
That's very, very clear. But also, I do think it's possible to create some sort of Latinx fantasy and involve that language element and still target it at English-speaking audiences without sacrificing the actual Spanish language. Like, you don't have to have half the book in Spanish. You don't have to do that. But you could, for example, have, say, Finn speaks Castellan and Alfie speaks Castellan in English, and Alfie says something in English, and Finn goes in Castellan, I don't understand you, I'm speaking this. But like, you can distinguish in the text. You can say Finn said in Castellan, or you can say Alfie said in Inglacian. You can actually distinguish that without changing the language of the story itself.
I get it. Yeah.
I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, and we had hi Morgan. So we have Morgan who said she felt like the Spanish culture started strong but was reduced to the characters throwing in, like, you know, the word maldito here and there. So
I don't know the word maldito. Like, someone else picked up on that as well. Like, it's the same word.
Yeah, like in the first like 10 pages, there were a lot of exchanges with like in Spanish and using words here and there, like that like just flowed in the story, and it wasn't like it was translated into English, but we understood exactly what was going on. And then like that was really strong in the first like 5-10 pages, and then we didn't see much of that throughout the rest of it, except for Maldito and like Neo and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely.
One of the things I was just going to say, like on a more positive note, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but one of the things I did like about it was I do think that it happened too fast, and like I liked that it didn't develop into like full-on Insta romance, but I liked the dynamic between Finn and Alfie, and that they had like positive effects on each other, and not like completely changed who they were, but like made them love themselves more, like, and the other person would kind of show them that they're not a monster, for example. And they really ended up respecting each other.
Yes.
And I'm really happy with how it ended, because I feel like if Finn had stayed, it would have been out of character. And like a thief and a prince don't have much of a future. But I liked that we saw some feelings develop there. But just overall, I really enjoyed the dynamic.
They are friendship feelings. I very much do not want them to end up in a romantic relationship.
Yeah. Like a really strong, I could definitely see how it might have like hinted towards romance, but it also was just like very strong friendship. Like they cared about each other. And there were because there wasn't any instances where they're like, oh, I just want to kiss them right now. It was more a case of like they're close to, like, Alfie's head was so close to being on Finn's shoulder. Like just like small instances like that where they just really showed that they were aware of being close to each other, but not in a like, I want to jump your bones type way.
I love intimacy that is non-romantic, or if it is romantic, not kissing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, especially between a guy and a girl as well, like a platonic type of relationship. Yeah. Even though it did hint towards that. But I was actually shocked, seeing as I'm only halfway through the book. Sophia did mention, she's like, you know, you can probably predict the whole ending.
I was wondering what she meant by that.
Yes. And I was like, I was like, okay, do they end up together and fall in love? And she was like, no. And I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, actually.
But they've known each other for 4 whole days.
Exactly.
And they're not in love yet.
Yeah.
What is this? What kind of YA is this?
Yeah, so that was the thing I think I loved the most about the book, the two of them, and how their relationship develops from, kind of hating each other's guts to, like, not hating each other's guts, but just like in opposition.
Yeah.
I
love that dynamic. I do love it. And I mean, one of the reasons why I did give this at least 2 stars was I like the dynamics between the characters. I like the aspects that they are building. One of my favorite parts, which I'm really disappointed they didn't build on more, was there's a scene with Xiomara and Alfie where he goes, okay, I recognize that you were not necessarily in control and you can't explain things, you can't defend yourself, but your identity is so linked up with my brother's disappearance or death that I can't ever untangle that.
Yeah.
And so like it's this recognition that his own feelings are complicated and his own feelings are they're not like he's not necessarily reacting to her in a way that's fair to her, but he's reacting to her in a way that makes sense to him.
Yeah, it's not necessarily rational, but very emotional.
It's emotional, and it was one of the few moments where he was where he felt like a real person to me. I want more of that. I was really disappointed with Xiomara's ending. Yeah. The fact that she like sacrificed herself by throwing herself into a void. Again, so convenient. Like, because also the thing is we don't really know how those voids work necessarily. We know that people say that no one ever comes out of them, but I spent the whole time waiting for Des to come back.
Yeah.
We don't know that she's not going to survive in the void. And we don't know enough about her to understand why she decided to sacrifice herself.
Yeah.
I'll laugh in the second book if it opens with someone opening up the void and coming back.
I'll tell you what,
because if she survived in the void, couldn't she also open a portal from the void? Like, we obviously don't know, but like she did like stab a dagger through her heart, so she's but when she falls in, it says that no time exists there. So when she falls in, who knows?
So maybe she falls in, she finds Des, they fall in love. That's all of book 2 up until
oh my god.
Oh dear.
Their task is to get themselves out of the void, but they're also being chased by a mysterious cloud. I wonder where it came from. That would really interest me. This idea that he has no idea, like Des, if he's been living in a void with no time, he doesn't know what's going on. For all he knows, it's been 5 years and everyone thinks he's dead, or maybe it's been 10 minutes and everyone's trying to get him out. He doesn't know what's going on, and she can't talk because her tongue has been cut out.
I was also, in terms of like her being in the prison, I was like surprised that she seemed mentally kind of okay. Because the whole clock thing in the prison is supposed to like remind the prisoners that they're there forever and drive, like so many of them are driven mad. So I was surprised that she seemed like really rational, like not rational, but like clear-headed.
She's been tortured. Her tongue has been cut out. Like, I have absolutely no concept of this, but I go crazy at a paper cut. So like, how is she so...
Yeah,
I get it.
Oh gosh, I have a lot to look forward to then.
I'm really interested to see what you think when you do actually finish it.
Yeah, I'm keen to
finish it.
You never know these days.
I do love hearing from people who don't finish books, because I want to know where you stopped and why you stopped. Like, because of course there are going to be things like last month's book where you hit a point that's just too graphic, that's too confronting, that makes you too uncomfortable as a reader. Of course you're going to put that down. But if a book is not holding your interest, if you just don't care enough, like at least one person felt with this one, then what is it that drives that decision? Because I hate not finishing things. There are a handful of books that I haven't finished, and most of them I've dropped within the first 100 pages. And for all of them, I've dropped them because there was one specific thing that made me so uncomfortable I couldn't keep going. And like you guys know, I've read books I've hated and talked about constantly. But like, I still read that whole series because I needed to understand where it was going.
Yeah.
So I am fascinated when people just put them down and walk away from them.
I think when I DNF books, it's more so that I have so limited time to read now, obviously, you know, being a mum, but I have so many books to read. And sometimes like I intend on finishing the book, but then I'm like, I've probably picked up like 2 other books in the meantime. And I'm like, look, I've been meaning to come back. And yeah, like there's just no payoff here. Like, you know, like I wanted to know about the brother, like, do we hear about that? But then at the moment, they just feel like they're just wandering around, not doing much.
They are.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to finish because I've invested, you know, so much time in this so far. And yeah. We have some questions. So, what was your opinion on the dynamic between Finn and Ignacio?
I simultaneously liked and hated it. So I thought it was a really interesting, like reading someone who had escaped and survived an abusive relationship and was very, very conscious of that. That was a really interesting aspect of Finn's character. And also the fact that the way she articulated it, where she said, well, his proprio is compulsion of some kind. And so he can't tell who loves him and who doesn't. And that was a really interesting aspect of his character. But I felt like it fell by the wayside when we got to the very, very binary pattern of this person is good, and so the black magic will inhabit them, will kill them. This person is bad, so the black magic will destroy them. Did I start with good or bad? You guys have read the book, you know what I'm talking about. It became a little juvenile, essentially, because it was, well, these people are good, so this is happening. These people are bad, so this is happening. And Ignacio fell into that. I do not want to make excuses for anyone who performs abusive things. He is undoubtedly bad. He's undoubtedly abusive, but he also has the potential to be a very complicated character. And he's just not. Like my abuser was not this bad, like nowhere near as bad as this sort of thing. And it was very, very mild compared to the things that people go through. But they were still a person with feelings and thoughts and understandings, and they had like a job, they had friends, they had, I mean, I assume they still do. I assume they still have all this stuff. And they had a partner, and there were things in their life that they did that were good. Like we can't just, even though people who are abusive are bad and people who create a pattern of abuse are very, very bad, there are also things in their life that are different, and I wanted to see that. I wanted to see a rounded character. And this draws back to what I was saying before about wanting to see I would have liked to see this as an adult book, because they could have gone into that detail and gone into that complexity instead of just stripping it down to these people are good, these people are bad. Exactly. The magic is attracted to the bad, and so we have to defeat evil.
I totally get that.
That in the history of fiction, especially designed for children, I'm going to use fairy tales as an example, and we all know why. There is a very clear binary between good and bad, and that is deliberate because it is something like a fairy tale is designed to instill moral values in children and in women and in families. It is supposed to go, well, this person is bad because of X reasons. This person is good because of X reasons. You should aspire to the good. You should be dutiful. You should be patient. You should be passive. You should be all of these things. You can't be a woman who aspires for power and doesn't get married. What a monster! Like it doesn't really matter what the content is. The pattern there is, this is good, this is bad, this is what we're sticking to, and there's nothing in between. And that's what this book fell into. And that's frustrating.
Yeah. Like I was very, very interested in the dynamic. Like, it's obviously super unhealthy, and but I totally agree. I feel like he was kind of reduced to just the bad person, and I wanted to kind of understand more about what was going on. And I know that, like, I was very interested in why he was so fixated on Finn. Like it's kind of explained here and there, but I just, like, towards the start, he mentioned how he wanted to like own Finn, basically, is because only like the people that he's used his power on before were older, and I think that he couldn't tell, like, he knew that their love was just based on his compulsion, but it was like, oh, you're so innocent and young, I know that your love would be true type thing. But obviously she grows older. I'm just wondering, I don't know, I just feel like I wanted to know more about that history and that progression.
Yes. So we all wanted more out of
like,
out of this.
The ending, I think, to a certain extent, I'm very satisfied with the ending because they wrapped up all those little things. But I still have so many questions. Just, I don't care about the plot at this stage. I just need to understand. I need to understand the world.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Do you will you guys read the second one, do you think?
I think so.
I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what Kaz thinks.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I feel like I liked the way that this wrapped up, and it felt like if there wasn't a sequel, like, the story itself felt complete enough. Like, it was getting towards the end and I was like, oh my gosh, is Ignatio still going to be alive at the end of this? And then we have another book to deal with it. But like, the complication in this book is like resolved. There are just a lot of other things that same thing as Els, that I want to know more about, and I think that curiosity is enough for me to want to read the second book. And figure out what the plot of it will be.
I feel like this book very much stands on its own because it is so resolved. I don't have a curiosity to keep reading because there's no more story for me. It's concluded.
I think it's totally probably going to be dependent on what the synopsis of the second book will be, because I don't know where they will go, like what the story could be for book 2. Like, it does feel so
wrapped up
as a single book. I'm like, okay, but what next?
This is what my theory is: Des and Giamara.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, because I wonder if you know, for the second book there will be more of that world building and everything, given that this one kind of lacks it a bit. So yeah, that would be interesting.
And I mean, the thing is, I've read books that I've absolutely loved, which had a lot of world building, but not enough for me personally. That didn't take away from anything. Like Primer of the Orange Tree, was huge. There was so much world building in there. I still want to know more, but I didn't feel let down by the amount that I was given in the book itself. I felt let down by the amount I was given in this.
I think so, especially because we are so fascinated with, you know, the magic and the world and everything that's going on.
We live in such a crappy world. I would love to know about a world that's slightly less crappy, or crappy in a different way. I'll take anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing I look for in fantasy. Is the number one thing is the world, because you've got so many different fantasy worlds. Like, why is your one unique? Cool. So we have our next book for July.
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to be well, I might see if I can get to it, but we're going to be reading The Bone Witch by Rinch Baker.
Yay. So pretty.
I know, it's so pretty. I really want to get to this, but
it's on Audible, I think.
Yes, the audiobook is really good.
Yes.
I just avoid fantasy on audio because I feel like I miss so many important details and stuff about the world building.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for this one, I would definitely feel the same. So I've read The Bone Witch before, and I love it.
Yes. So I'll probably reread on audio, but I have read it in physical before, so I'm keen.
I know a lot of people either haven't read it yet and have been meaning to, or want to reread it because they read it ages ago, never got to it, still want to read the sequels.
Yes,
so yeah. So there was a lot of motivation behind. That was me. Still need to read the sequels. So that's why we're doing this, just for me specifically, so I can reread it. And yeah.
Yes. Cool.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap this up. So, sorry, there's just one question. Is there somewhere we can watch all of the previous live shows? Yes. Half of the live shows are on my channel. The other half are on Pierre Ford's channel. So if you kind of do a search on either of our channels for hashtag the name of the book, or you could do like a hashtag the name of the book search onto YouTube, our live shows should probably pop up. Might be a good idea for me to just make a playlist with all of our videos. I will go and do that after this live show, and then that'll be up on my channel, so you can find all of them in one place. Yeah, so hopefully that's helpful. But thank you guys all so much for joining us today to talk about Nocturna. We will see you in a month to talk about The Bone Witch on Pierre's channel.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.